Update 7.10 is here with 5 new refines for this month. Today we're talking about Heath, Chad, Tsubasa, Larcei, and Spring Fur. We got a couple new weapons, plus we'll discuss all the new refined skill effects. Then we'll go over some general playstyles and build ideas. First up, our hero grow refine for this month is Heath. He has some stiff competition as a free-to-play lance flyer, so let's see what he's got. Heath's new weapon is the Hyperion lance, 16 might and effective against cavaliers. If foe initiates combat or has more than 75% HP, grants plus 4 to all stats, inflicts attack speed and defense debuffs on the foe equal to 10% of Heath's defense stat at start of combat, then inflict guard on the foe as well. Hyperion lance is a fairly basic weapon. Heath can hunt down cavaliers and he'll acquire a decent amount of stats. He has a balanced spread and isn't hyper focused on defense like some Wyvern Knights. For the debuffs, a plus 10 Heath with max Dragon Flowers will hit 43 flat defense, that is minus 4 attack, speed, and defense on the foe. I would say it's not really worth pushing to 50 defense if it's costing you other effects, that's only going to be 1 more point of debuffs. In general, we can say Heath gets plus 8 to all stats. For the refine, if Heath has more than 25% HP, he gets plus 4 to all stats, a free follow-up attack, and reduces damage by X%. If it's Heath's first fight in player or enemy phase, he gets 40% DR. Otherwise, this is 20% damage reduction for all second fights onward. Very simple refine, another plus 4 stats and a free follow-up attack if you aren't going to go for heavy speed investment. Even with a speed build, that follow-up attack can cancel out enemy follow-up denial, so it's still useful. As for the damage reduction part, Heath has a slightly different guard bearing 4. Like that skill, it works on both phases. However, Heath gets 40% DR in his first player phase fight compared to guard bearing's 30%. In all other scenarios though, guard bearing 4 has higher DR values. Nothing stopping you from stacking Hyperion lance with the skill though. In general, this weapon and the refine is a little more defensive considering it has guard and percent damage reduction. However, Heath gets that follow-up and cavalry effectiveness for damage, and he essentially gets around plus 12 to all stats. Heath has a very jack-of-all-trades type stat spread, so Hyperion lance's mixed offensive and defensive effects can lead to a variety of playstyles. Unlike Trevant or Arian, Heath has much higher base res to work with as well. He has some speed, and his attack and defense are just okay. In terms of playstyle, Heath isn't focusing hard on a specific stat, so feel free to customize them to your liking. First off, you can run Guard Bearing 4. It works similarly to the Refine with 60% DR for that first enemy phase fight, and then 30% DR for everything else. However, Heath can also run Gambit 4. If you want quick specials, Guard Bearing is better. If you're accepting Heath may not be getting 1-round specials, then Gambit with Aether or Miracle is an option. 5 cooldown specials will give 15 true damage plus 50% damage reduction for all fights. That stacks with the Refine for 70% and 60% DR, which is pretty crazy. This will be a more tank-oriented playstyle, but the skill has speed debuffs, so you could spec into some extra speed skills if you want. You could run something like Unity or Bond 4, but Catch and Clash work fine too. Distant Counter also is an option, and if you're feeling so inclined, Prime 4 and Gambit 4 are both coming back on the new upcoming Annas. If you prefer something more aggressive, flyers have a couple fun player phase tools. If you run an impact skill, you will have follow-up denial and guard, which is pretty good. Heath can run near trace for Conso, and flow skills for extra insurance on follow-up attacks into those slow foes. You can extend Conto potential with Rain Snap, which is also making a comeback on this seasonal Anna. You will need melee infantry or armor allies, but Heath could get extra movement for himself and those allies. Slightly different mobility option than the new tier 4 guidance skills. Speaking of mobility, aerial maneuvers is brand new. Dive bomb plus 2 space warping is pretty fun and can work for Heath. He's not a super crazy offensive threat, but the warp potential alone is wild. For some other skills, another warp option is Oath for C skills. Menace buffs and debuffs work fine. I wouldn't call it amazing, but Wyvern Flight can be used. Arian did just bring that as a free-to-play unit. For Sacred Seals, Heavy Blade is Heath's only cooldown option. We also are getting another Tempest Sacred Seal if you wanted extra movement every other turn. Overall, Heath got an alright refine that can fade a variety of skills. Compared to the Arcane Lances, well, Arcane Lewin may not work if Heath isn't fast enough. Arcane Chiong, meanwhile, is very special cooldown focused. Hyperion Lance provides a nice all-around stat bump with that percent DR, guard, and a follow-up attack. I would say it does enough to be worth using if you wanted something unique. Our next new weapon is for Chad. He's a Cutlass Infantry Dagger demote with pretty high base HP and decent speed. Unfortunately, this refine doesn't really do anything with that high HP stat. Now, Chad's new weapon is the Wildcat Dagger. It has 14 might, and at start of combat, if Chad has more than 25% HP, he gets plus for all stats and extra stats equal to the current field buff on the foe stats. He then inflicts debuffs on the foe stats equal to that same field buff on them, and finally, he has no guard. To simplify, Wildcat Dagger has Freya's buff stealing mechanic. If the foe has a +6 attack field buff, Chad inflicts -6 attack to cancel it out in combat, and he then gains +6 attack in combat. Each stat is calculated independently. Further refined, if Chad initiates or the foe has more than 75% HP, he gets another +4 stats, 30% DR for one hit, and deals true damage per hit equal to 10% of his speed stat in combat. Pretty simple. Altogether, Chad can get +8 to all stats and steal enemy field buffs. Do not run him with low effects. You then have % DR, no guard, and a little bit of true damage to offset Chad's lower base attack. Generally speaking, not a crazy weapon and refined, but it does have some nice perks. % DR is great on high HP units, and Chad is okay dealing with enemy field buffs. Damage wise, he can get to a special consistently, but he's gonna need that for the extra burst. In terms of playstyles, I think Chad can make a name for himself with some HP based skills. With 45 base HP, you can definitely run the new Infantry Pulse 4. Reminder, this thing got mega buffed. Times Pulse 3 for Chad and his infantry teammates every single turn. You don't need to be near Chad like with Lord Asker, and it only checks max HP. Chad can use this to get to a faster special with his no guard. For any special reliant build, Finish 4 would be nice, especially for the little bit of healing. As for some other support perks, we actually just got access to 2 rarer HP based B skills. Sudden Panic 3 is on 0, and this month's Ephemera features Halloween Curtain Naga, who has Even Pulse Tie. Perhaps those skills could see tier 4 upgrades one day. Now, let's move on to some other combat skills. Generally, speed is good to stack for Chad. It's his best stat besides HP, and he has that speed scaling true damage. No Follow-Up naturally is a good pairing. It messes with anything slower, and the tier 4 no Follow-Up skills give partial DR piercing if you aren't running lethality. If you do want to go for the big burst, Chad can get Bread type cooldown now, Flash Sparrow for the player phase, Attack and Speed Pledge for either phase. Pledge is quite strong if you wanted to run a mixed phase build, for example with Close Counter. Prime 4 if you're feeling spicy is hilarious too. Basically though, with Pledge, Chad can take a hit, then if he counters, a follow-up attack will proc lethality. Better yet, take a hit and immediately reply with lethality if you have Rally Spectrum. No follow-up would help ensure doubles, and no guard does as the name says. For some other skills, Special Sparrow 4 would be fun to run with say Infantry or Times Pulse, stack more % DR on Chad with things like Remote Sparrow, Brash Assault 4, Guard 4, Nosy Discipline 4, etc. Since Chad deals with enemy field buffs, feel free to stack your own buffs with bonus doubler for more advantages. For cheap, cooldown, Flashing Blade works fine. If you need more HP, the new squad Ace Sacred Seals are not bad. If we do get any other high HP based skills, Chad could run them to stand out. Speaking of which, combat wise, we do not have an Arcane Dagger to compare to just yet. It's possible that could just be a way better offensive weapon. Chad does have some nice perks like no guard, % DR, and stealing field buffs. However, his stats aren't exactly the greatest if you're looking for an all-out killer. We just got Patty if you wanted to build a better offensive dagger unit. Our third unit is Tsubasa. She is a retired 5-star lance flyer with good speed. Like Itsuki, she will retain her Tokimura Sessions based mechanics. Mirage Feather did get a nice update. It's effective against Cavaliers and armored foes, plus grants 3 speed. If you initiates or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +6 stack and speed and offensive no follow. If Tsubasa initiates, after an ally has acted, she can make a follow-up attack before the foe can counter, aka that's Desperation. Mirage Feather keeps all its old perks. The attack speed boost got moved to a new condition, which does not depend on initiating second or later. This, plus the new offensive no follow-up, will work on enemy phase now. Now the Desperation portion is still tied to that Blade Session mechanic, and Tsubasa is still a player phase initiator at heart, as shown by the refine. Tsubasa will now get Kanto 2. At start of combat, if she has more than 25% HP, she gets +5 attack and speed, and neutralizes attack and speed debuffs on herself. Also, if she initiates after an ally has acted, gain another +5 attack and speed. Altogether, Mirage Feather can give +16 attack and speed, technically +19 speed, offense and a follow-up, and Desperation, assuming Tsubasa initiates after an ally has acted. Pretty much 0 defensive perks in this weapon, so all-out offense is kinda your only option. Broadly speaking, Mirage Feather covers a lot of skill effects. It already has Kanto 2, it basically has Flow Desperation, and neutralizing attack and speed debuffs covers secondary things like on Clash 4. Now, what else can we add to this weapon? Tsubasa's playstyle should relatively stay the same because she still is reliant on attacking after an ally has already gone. This means following up after initiation or getting danced and attacking, or literally just moving and ending turn for one ally. With Mirage Feather being fully committed to initiations and having 0 defense, player phase perks are the way to go generally. As long as Tsubasa outspeeds, she doubles twice in a row, and hopefully she gets that job done. Cav and army effectiveness will help. With that B slot largely open now, Wings of Mercy is a great choice. You have an ally initiate, get low on HP, and Tsubasa flies in to attack. This could be nice for a Gale Force centric team, but keep in mind if the Gale Forcer gets to act again, Mirage Feather is not triggering. Any warp ability will be great for initiating second. We just got aerial maneuvers, but sadly dive bomb is kinda redundant. If aerobatics or fly formation get different tier 4 upgrades, maybe those could be better. There is also Oath 4. For warp effects, Tsubasa can get in and out thanks to Kanto. You then can pair this with Guidance 4 or Soaring Guidance to set up your other teammates. For this type of playstyle, Tsubasa could be a fun part of a Flared Sparrow stacking team. For example, you have the first ally lay down the flame tiles, Tsubasa then follows up to get 14 damage before her assault, and maybe extend the flame tower range on the map. Kanto is then great to escape behind that line of fire. For some other skills, while Blade Session is fine for Tsubasa as an A skill specifically, you could opt for other options like Catch 4 or Clash 4. If you did want to do any kind of mixed phasing, Gambit could provide one defensive perk in the form of that %DR. Tsubasa doesn't have accelerated specials and you need Heavy Blade for any kind of chance at 1-round moonbows. If you aren't planning to Gale Force, then the 15 Drew damage may be worth it instead. You could pair this with Smoke 4 debuffs for example. And then for other B skills, Seal Defense or Speed 4 could be used for stats. Since you need to act second, Speed and Defense Snag 4 may be fine if you have an ally move Tsubasa into position. If you wanted an ultra budget B skill, Hit and Run for a makeshift Kanto 3, kinda. For some other mobility perks, while Guidance Warping can let allies attack first, Rain Snap gives +1 movement. That could be another way to let Tsubasa follow up after a teammate. Overall, Tsubasa got a good refine that just enhances her Blade Session type playstyle. If you invested in her, chances are you probably need a new B skill since the refine added a lot of good things. Unfortunately, Tsubasa is kind of just pure offense. She doesn't block counterattacks, so not KOing the foe with those 2 hits will land you in trouble. You technically could run Wind or Water Sweep, but then you're giving other fun skills that maybe could secure more kills. Definitely a bit of a glass cannon. Our next refine is for Larcei. As Ira's daughter, she is another Regna Astra Swordmaster from the retired 5-star group. Larcei's Edge got an update. It accelerates specials, and at start of combat, if Larcei has higher speed or the foe has more than 75% HP, then she gets +4 to all stats, neutralizes all the foe's field buffs, and she gets no guard. If Larcei fails the at start of combat speed check, she has an easier HP condition to meet. No guard with Slang and Regna Astra is just like Ira. For the refine, at start of turn, if Larcei's special is at its max cooldown, she gets -1 cooldown. At start of combat, if she has more than 25% health, gain +4 to all stats, deal true damage on hit equal to 15% speed in combat, and after combat, if special is at its max value again, you get -1 cooldown as well. To simplify, Larcei now has built in times Pulse 4, Sling, and no guard, full on special spamming skill set. She will also have +8 to all stats, the full low effect, and more speed-based true damage. As a Regna Astra user, Larcei can basically pre-charge it and it will hit with basically 55% speed as extra damage. If she takes a counterattack, she recharges Regna Astra thanks to no guard, and a follow-up attack will proc it again. After combat, Regna Astra just recharges. Loop that over and over. This is the basis of Larcei's playstyle with the refine. However, it's been some time since the heyday of Regna Astra, and Vital Astra has stepped in, available to everyone. 10% less damage based on speed, but if you pre-charge it, it provides 30% dodge damage reduction. Larcei has no innate damage reduction, and depending on your build, she may not get any other form of %DR. If this is something you want, then unfortunately, Vital Astra may be better than the unique Regna Astra. Now, looking at Larcei's Refine, it's almost identical to Ascended First Weapon. Instead of 40% DR for one hit, Larcei has the full low effect to counter field buffs. That is a good trait, don't get me wrong, but a Swordmaster with 0% damage reduction seems so wrong in this age. I wanted to make this comparison because I would consider these two to be more aggressive Swordmasters focused on damage output. Stats aside, Larcei could be even more offensive due to Ragnar Astra's higher damage. If you copied Fur's base kit, that's a fine standard build. Attack and speed finish is always active due to the pre-charge special. Physical no follow lets Larcei abuse her speed into slower foes, and it gives her half DR piercing. As for that C slot, no need for Times Pulse 4, you're able to freely choose a stat booster like Oath 4 or Menace. Simply initiate with Ragnar Astra. If the foe hits back, Larcei recharges a second Ragnar Astra. You just loop that over and over. The issue with this setup is no percent damage reduction at all. You can run Vital Astra instead, but we aren't stacking dodge like some Swordmasters. Additionally, in a general sense, after this initiation, Larcei is open to enemy at phase attacks. To tweak this playstyle, you could instead run a dodge 4 B skill like Spurn 4 paired with Vital Astra. You could even take Speed Smoke 4, but you lose that first encounter power. The issue now is lack of no follow-up. You can run the Sacred Seal or you can outsource this from an ally, but that's more planning on your team. While there are many distant counter plus dodge setups for Vital Astra and whatnot, I still don't think it's the best role for Larcei. It can work though. With that said, what about Godlike Reflexes? Technically, if you ran double Times Pulse 4 effects, you could charge GLR every turn. That solves the issue of pre-charging. However, if the special ever lands on one cooldown, it's not going to recharge for the next fight. You may want to have a Breath to cooldown effect to recharge GLR in combat. Everyone is getting access to Even Pulse tie with the Ephemeron this month though, so that will mess up GLR's pre-charge, just something to consider. Moving on, just a couple more skills. For the full offensive playstyle, you could swap to Hexblade for adaptive damage. Surge Sparrow offers a lot of healing, but is player phase only. Special Sparrow 4 with double Ragnar Astra procs would be disgusting. The -2 cooldown part is going to be wasted though, and you still ideally want dodge and a follow. Last, I do want to mention the low effect of the weapon again. It may not always activate, but anything that flat out ignores buffs and debuffs can be extremely clutch. For example, Bonus Doubler 4 is on the next banner, so if people want to stack that effect, Larcei will just laugh at their efforts. Feel free to give her Bonus Doubler with full buffs to rub it in herself. Overall, Larcei's Edge got an okay refine, a ton of special cooldown, but I'm a bit disappointed Ragnar Astra may be tossed aside for its inheritable counterpart. Just kind of feels bad. Our last refine for today goes to Spring Fur, who is having a very fun year. We just mentioned her Ascended ult, and actually, that's still a bit relevant here. Despite being an ex-flyer, Spring Fur is another Swordmaster in disguise. She has an excellent base weapon, so I was expecting something spicy, and I do think she got just that. The Bun-Bun Baton, still fun to say, and it's a 16-byte armor effective axe that exerts specials. It also has full no-follow built in. New to the base effect is if Fur is above 25% health, she gets +4 stats and no guard. Offensive tempo seems to be the theme for this month. Nothing much else to add, just really great perks to start with. For the refine, Fur gets a Phantom Speed effect. In speed checks, she gets +7 speed for the sake of comparisons. This is not real speed. Now, if the foe initiates or has more than 75% HP at start of combat, Fur gets +4 stats, she reduces the damage of % skills in half, and she has 40% dodge damage reduction. Essentially, Spring Fur has what I will call Dodge 3.5. Tier 3 Dodge has 40% DR, but Tier 4 Dodge has that Phantom Speed effect. With no fallout from the weapon and the partial DR piercing on the refine, Fur also has the Tier 4 no follow B skill, just like her Ascended ult. Plus 8 total stats, sling and no guard. This is an incredible refine. Flyers do not have access to these effects, so Fur is in a unique position, and to help with damage, she even has armor effectiveness. My only gripe is that the activation condition on the refine is kinda dumb. Fully active on the enemy phase, but for player phase only against high HP foes. If the foe were to have 74% HP, Fur no longer has DR piercing nor dodge, and that kinda sucks if you wanted to finish off a tank. Maybe this is for balancing, but it is something to be wary of. A bit opposite to Tsubasa, Spring Fur got a lot of skill effects she doesn't normally have access to. Flyers do have DR and offensive follow-up, but full no follow-up effects, partial DR piercing, and no guard are great abilities. Fur can pair these with all the fun fire mobility skills. For example, fresh off a banner, aerial maneuvers, dive bomb 4 plus no follow plus DR piercing and the 2 space warp is amazing. It also kind of focuses on the whole high HP or high enemy HP condition that Refine has. If you were going to go for mobile skills, Clash 4 is a really good addition. You nullify attack and speed debuffs. You can run these with Rain Snap. Maybe 3 movement is overkill, but hey, more options and you can buff your allies too. In general, aerial maneuvers or guard bearing / gambit with speed and defense Rain do add another -8 speed and defense debuffs on the foe. Fur will appreciate those stats. If you want to focus on other types of player phase builds, Fur could be very fun with Flared Sparrow. Unlike Tsubasa, she has Slang and no guard. If you can get cooldown reduction, 2-hit Gale Force can be fun with Flared Sparrow's Flame Tiles. Legendary Hinata can be a great partner, otherwise Heavy Blade is again our only option. At the very least, Fur can proc 2 cooldown Mumbo, Glimmer, Erupted Sky in 2 hits. If she's going to be hit back, you can do the same for Luna, and you can run something like Surge Sparrow for healing sustain. For any player phase setup, Near Trace Kanto would be excellent. If you're going to be in the thick of things, you can run Smoke 4 debuffs, Speed Smoke for extra dodge, Panic Smoke 4 is just fun chaos. Another good initiation tool, especially into armor units, is Guard. The Sacred Seal or Tier 4 B skill can provide that. Now, if you wanted to stack DR for Fur, you could take Guard Bearing 4 or Gambit. I would say Slang plus no guard is better suited for low cooldown spam, so Guard Bearing may be preferred here. You could do Gambit, Aether, or Miracle if you want though. Similar to the basic dodge tanking builds, you could do Distant Counter. Just don't expect Fur to tank everything, especially those Deadeye Archers. If you want to stay in formation, Oath 4s are easy self buffers, also another warping option. Of course, feel free to slot in the tier 4 guidance skills. Overall, Spring Fur got an excellent refine. Gaining effects your class normally doesn't have access to with skills makes the unit very unique. You do need to make some changes though. There's no Finish 4, Vital Astra, Gallic Reflexes, or even Times Pulse available here. Flyers also lack self-sufficient cooldown skills. To replace these infantry standards, you do have a bunch of mobility effects, Kanto, and multiple warp effects for Fur and her team. If you have an invested Spring Fur, you should be very happy. Bun-Bun Baton should be very flexible for future skills to inherit as well. That's going to be it for this month's refine. Nothing super crazy, but all around very decent and usable. Let me know your thoughts on these new weapons and refines. Feel free to share your own build ideas with everyone in the comments. I'll be back to talk about the upcoming Halloween banner. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.